from the engineering firm that is helping the town with the design of this project. And again, for the record, the town is the sponsor for this project, and it is being led by the highway department. The agenda for tonight, after introductions, just go through what is the purpose of the information meeting, how the public can be involved, what is our schedule for this project moving forward, and a quick look back. Then what does the project need? Why are we doing this project in the first place? Then we're going to look at the alternatives that we have. Those are different build options, and we'll talk about the proposed designs, an anticipated detour for one of the alternatives, and then open it to questions. So the purpose of the public information meeting is to share all of the details with the public and to allow the public a seat at the table to make a comment, to ask questions, and to be part of this process. The way that public can be involved is seeing the presentation, seeing the materials that are going to be posted or are posted currently on the town's website, to read our brochure, to understand what is in that brochure talking about the project, and to be able to register their opinion, make a comment, or ask a question. There's obviously these forms here, but for any of the public who might, after this meeting, watch the recorded version, there's an email address for the town highway department that they would be able to send their comments into. And we are opening the comment period for 30 days from today. So that comment period closes on May 9th at 5 p.m. Any comments that are received afterwards, it is up to the town's discretion whether they want to consider those, but any comments after that period would not go into our design report. Timeline for this project: last May in 2024, we began getting everything signed for contract and getting the agreements in place between DOT and the town. The funding source for this and the review agency is the DOT. After all of that was done, we moved into the preliminary stages of this project. In summer of 2024, we performed our survey. We had our soil borings taken. Our environmental folks came out to visit the site for all of the due diligence they have to do, and our design team of engineers went out to the site to fully look at everything upstream, downstream, all of the structures surrounding in the entire area around our project. And where we are today is public information meeting, so that we are able to open this for comment and get that recorded into our design report. The preliminary stage that I mentioned, what we do is we take all of that preliminary information, we put it into a report that goes to DOT for an approval. We are currently in the process of back and forth between addressing the DOT comments and getting that document finalized. After the public information meeting is over, we're going to move into the phase called design report approval, and that's really just the design approval. And that is the stage at which the document we're creating is finalized and the town has to make a decision on the alternatives. And you would go through a resolution saying we're picking alternative 2 or alternative 3, whichever one it is. After that stage, there's some paperwork we do with the DOT to document that we have the approvals, and we move into the phase called ADPs. That is an acronym that stands for Advanced Detailed Plans, and that's when we actually design this. We go through all of the 40 pages that will go into a construction plan set for this project. It goes up to about 90% completion. We submit for permits, and we go to another review with DOT. And we're looking to have that wrapped up by September. In actuality, it's September, October. After that, we finalize all of our designs and our drawings, and we get permission to advertise the project, which means go and try to get bids. And we're looking to bid this in January of 2026. One thing that isn't noticed here, this program, from the start, when the town agreed with DOT to move forward with this, you were given 24 months to get all of these items done and to get a contractor in place. That would be May of 2026. So if we open bids in January, there's still about 4 months, obviously, of float there to make sure that you've met that obligation of 24 months. Mm-hmm. Why is the project needed? Well, the culvert is 80 years old approximately. Sorry for the quality here. You can't really see the pictures, but There's a lot of cracking and spalling in the concrete, in the structure's wing walls and in the structure itself. It is weight limited. It's a narrow roadway for what we build, and if the town were to keep the bridge as it is right now, it will require more maintenance over time to be able to keep the road open. This is
shutting the lights off help?
Sure, yes, that might help.
All of them or?
Yeah.
This is a picture of under the bridge. If you don't know what is under this bridge, it's a jack arch bridge. So there's a bunch of small arches, and this is a nice picture compared to some of the other ones, but it's basically rusting out and you're losing all of the metal that's under there. So the bridge has basically come to the end of its useful life and it's time for a replacement. So the objectives that we have in replacing this structure, the first is that we're going to replace it with what is called a three-sided fixed frame precast concrete structure. I'm going to show you pictures of that in just a minute. That structure has to provide a service life of at least 75 years. We are required by environmental regulations to improve the waterway through there to make it wider and to improve the hydraulics going underneath this new structure. And of course, we have to meet all of the requirements for safety standards and how we build roads today, as opposed to when the structure was put in the 40s and 50s. So this is an example of very similar structures being constructed around country and mostly New York, of exactly what we're going to be proposing. This is an arch structure. They are delivered in pieces. It's hard to see here, but right here there's a strip footing that's poured concrete. And each one of these pieces is set onto that concrete, and they just put them together like a Lego set or an erector set. Each one of these pieces is precast off-site. They bring them to the site on trucks, they lower them to place, and everything gets connected. Joe and I here were talking that some of these structures, after the contractor preps everything, can be put together in a day or two, and then they start backfilling. So that portion of it goes pretty quick as long as all of the other prep work is done. And ready to go. So in the design approval document that we have, there are technically three alternatives. The first alternative is what's called the null. You do nothing. And what happens if you do nothing? We always have to compare that because that is always an option that we don't move forward with a design. That leaves two build alternatives, alternative 2 and alternative 3. So the first one of those build alternatives, it's alternative 2 in the design report. It is the three-sided fixed frame structure that is placed on the existing bridge's location. It involves us to closing the road, and the road closure would only be right where this culvert is. The remainder of Oak Summit Road is open. You just have to access it from the north instead of coming through on Canby Road. There's a detour, obviously, for anybody who's on Canby Road who would need to turn onto Oak Summit while this construction is going on. And we're going to show that detour here in a second. But we build the bridge in the exact location, and this is pretty typical for a road that has less than 400 cars per day. The actual count is about 125. So when you have that low volume, you do usually close the road. It is obviously annoying for people to have to go around on a detour, but that is usually the most economical thing for town to do. But there are some gives and takes. When you close the road, you don't want to affect school buses. You don't want to close the road in May or June of one year and have a school route have to all of a sudden make an adjustment that's not associated with an emergency. So if you hired a contractor in January or February, they might not be able to get started until June or July. So those are kind of some of those trade-offs that you think about when you're looking at these. This alternative involves 2 small land purchases. Those are fee acquisitions. You are going to permanently purchase the land. And then they also require 2 temporary easements. Those easements only last for 2 to 3 years, and they allow the contractor to walk on the lands around the structure to get permission from the neighbors to do that. So the detour, hard to see, but basically, if you can imagine this, you're on Canby Road, you're at the closed section of Oak Summit. You have to go on Canby Road until you can get to New York 82. You have to go north on 82 until you get to the north entrance of Oak Summit Road. and then you would have to go to your destination eventually on Oak Summit Road. All around, that is a 6.5 mile detour, and if you went from the beginning to the end at the posted speeds, that takes you 11 minutes. During construction, the driveways that are nearby this road will always remain open, and the contractor is required never to block those driveways. So the two residents that are very close, that have driveways close by, those will always remain open. And during construction, there is an on-site representative that you hire through Colliers. That is an inspector that is not with the contractor, who's always making sure the contractor is doing what they need to do. One of their jobs is to make sure that the neighbors have that access and that the detour is maintained.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure thing.
On on that scenario where you're gonna close the road and you're gonna take the existing bridge out and then put the new one in. You still have to take adjoining property to accommodate or to accomplish that.
Yep. So the purchases of land is because the new structure that's going in, the width of the structure we have to build, and these parts that are come off the side of it called wing walls, the way that we have to, I'm sorry, I pointed the wrong one. The way that they come out, you have to have ownership of that. It has to be within the municipality. So there are two small strip purchases of land right here. It amounts to about 1,000 square foot of land total, I think. It's not a lot, but you want to own your structure. You don't want your permanent structure to be on somebody else's land, right?
Yeah.
And then the temporary easements are literally so that the contractor has permission to walk in those areas.
Okay.
The second alternative in our book is called Alternative 3. That is where we realign Oak Summit Road. It comes in at a 90-degree angle to Canby Road, and this allows the new structure to be built right to the side of the existing structure, and Oak Summit Road does not need to be closed, so there's no detour. So the contractor is able to begin, once they can get all of their material to the site, they can work in this area, and what's going to happen under this scenario is one of the days during summertime or whenever they get to it, they're just going to flip traffic. They're going to have the new stuff all built, and they'll be able to bring traffic here. They'll close existing Oak Summit Road here, and they'll do the demo and remove all of this. This will become grass, and then the existing structure will be removed from the stream.
Would that involve more purchase of land from private owners?
One less purchase, but the purchase that remains is bigger.
Bigger. Right?
Yes. So in this scenario, we do not need to purchase
Right.
from the land over here. We do need to purchase a larger section of land on this parcel here. That is about 7,000, I think. It was 7,000 square feet. So it's right. So it's a much larger section of land, but it is one less
And how quickly
acquisition.
does that option take it to the existing house?
Oh, I'm sorry. How quickly?
There's an
does-
existing home.
Yep, over here.
Oh, that's right over there.
Yeah, it's way over here.
It
Yeah,
seems to be closer when you visualize it. Okay.
gotcha.
Yeah, it's all wide open. You can
Yeah,
see it.
right, okay. And that would be a 2-lane either way.
Yep, 2-lane either way. And it would just be one day where the contractor would have to temporarily close things, flip
Right.
traffic, and then reopen it.
So how long does that land acquisition process take, plus or minus?
It's going to take months. We are in the beginning process right now. The initial contacts have been made with the two landowners by our sub-consultant who does that work for us. They're going to go through a process of talking with each landowner. They're going to do appraisals on what the properties would cost, and have all of that data for us to look at. They have a litany of stuff they have to do. It's actually 2 appraisals. One appraiser looks at it. A second one who's never been involved has to verify it's correct. They have to certify title. They get a lawyer involved to make sure it's all buttoned up. That does take time, but I think that where they are right now, we would be done with all of that work by fall. We have to be, according to meet the schedule, because before you get permission to advertise the project for construction, you have to have all of your right-of-way acquisitions in place.
Okay, so either way, it wouldn't affect the timetable of construction.
No.
Because all that will.
All has to be done before construction. You can't
So
move
you're gonna
forward.
tell us how much
Yes.
before we make.
Yes, you'll see that whole process. We don't get permission to move into the acquisition phase until we're farther along. DOT is the one who gives you permission to move to that
Of
phase.
course,
When they do, that's when what's called the just compensation is created. So our land agent will figure out based on the appraisals what the just compensation is for this land. You'll see what those values are there from that point.
Will we have an idea by the end of this year?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, you'll have whatever option you go with, you'll have the purchases done before the end of this year in order to move to construction in January. All right. So that's the third alternative. It's our second build option. And that basically was it. So if there are any other questions about anything related to the poster boards we have here, or any of the other work that we've done to get to the point we are today, happy to answer those.
so we have until May 9th for any public comment.
Yep.
Okay, then after May 9th,
We take any comments that are
then
received
you're
plus
gonna-
our revisions to
and
the
then it's
report.
gonna be a final report,
Hopefully, we'll send it back to DOT to make sure they're okay with it.
and then
it
they
becomes-
will mull that over,
Yep.
and then get back to us.
Correct.
That would be the next.
Yep.
Okay.
And at that point, when they are done and okay with it, we execute the document. So there's signatures that go into the document. We do call out which of these alternatives you prefer to go with. So if it's alternative one, alternative two, I should say there will be an estimate based off the appraisal of how much this land costs. So
Yes.
you won't have the actual just compensation that would be given to the landowner. You would have the appraisal by the
So
time you figure out.
plus or minus, and you might have said this already, but again, like the deadline for us to make our decision.
Your decision should be made in May. The deadline will be, June. So if you have a town board meeting that is at the beginning of June, that might be when you want to officially make the
June
decision.
would be that, June.
Question on the cost incurred by the town for the purchase of the land, but obviously they're paralleling costs with lawyers and so on. Is that covered in the grant, or is that something that we're going to have to access out of existing funds somewhere else?
All of the land agent's costs, his lawyers, his appraisals, his work, that's all within the contract that we currently have. There is a reserve amount of money, I forget what it is, it's $14,000 to $15,000 of the grant that we didn't use that would be used towards these purchases, or that can be used towards these purchases. Temporary easements don't cost that much.
No.
They can be a few $100. The acquisitions cost a little bit more. I'm not going to quote that because I have not seen appraisals. I'm not sure what.
So we are going to incur some ancillary cost outside of the project for our own lawyers to review. the
Oh,
material.
your own. If the materials that we hand over to you are given to your lawyers for review, then yes, there would be an
As
outside
part of the
cost.
purchasing, I'm saying.
Yeah, if you guys would
So-
prefer doing that,
Because nobody's
there's, right,
working with a real estate agent, so
Right.
we've got to have somebody make
Yes.
sure we're looking at
yeah, and that would be,
apples to apples.
and I would assume that would be your town designated counsel, whoever that might be, if they're qualified and that's part of their scope. I imagine that's who would do it.
How much of our own highway department will be involved with any of this process? Time-wise?
Well,
Obviously
technically,
posting- Do you
yeah.
post all of the detour sites, or is that our?
No, that
No,
would be the
contractor.
contract.
Yeah,
That would be part of it.
Yeah,
Maintenance protection,
as-
that would be a
Yeah.
line item in the contract.
yeah. As far as legwork, if that's what you're thinking,
Right.
your highway department should not be doing any of this work or involved in this work. The only person who I would imagine is involved is going to be the highway superintendent. There's paperwork that's involved. There's one very important document with DOT. When we decide, and this is all approved, the way it actually works, a little convoluted, but just follow me here. DOT doesn't officially give you the approval. The town, the sponsor, you will approve you will approve the document that goes into DOT. DOT says, okay, you can move into the next phase. So that's a piece of paperwork that Joe is
And a second
designated to
question
do.
on public relations, because of where this is located in the southern part of our town. Once we make a decision and things start rolling, should there be a briefing with the fire department down there and our own fire department down there so that they know exactly what is transpiring over these months of construction?
So it's
Because there's a firehouse for them right down the street.
right. It'd
But
be,
these detours and all of this,
Yeah.
plus there's houses up in that area. Should we have an informational, casual meeting with
yes,
them?
I would recommend beforehand. So the official process is all that has to be done when the contractor's hired and everything goes into place and the detours are all set. All of those notifications have to go out at a certain amount of time in advance of them, the detour taking place. Letting them know now or letting them know in a few months, that can only help.
So I was discussing with Kathleen earlier that we would probably want to notify the town of Uniondale
Yes.
to tell them what's posted on our website, so they could be within the
Sure.
comment period.
And technically, yeah,
So,
they can register
so that's
opinions
what
and
we
comments.
plan on
Yes.
doing.
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
Another part of this too is if you do use the detour, you are going to have to get highway work permits for the 2 roads that you're on.
That's a good point. Yes. So Canby Road is a county road. So technically, we have to get a highway work permit anyway because we are working in the right of way no matter what. But if we place detour signs elsewhere on the right of way, that's part of the permit process too. Only the option in which we close the road, do we have to go to New York State DOT? Again, they're reviewing it, but we have to go to a different department at the DOT to get a highway work permit for 82, for detour signs to be on 82. It is required that if we put something in their right of way, that they're notified and they get permission.
So in the construction period, how long would that take? You know, I
Permits
mean,
We
were
do
put
that.
away on PA
Before,
Yeah.
yeah, everything is done beforehand. So that's all submitted and done before the contractor starts.
before.
They have to coordinate to let them know, hey, we're doing this, but we get
So
the
when we
permit.
make the decision and before we're gonna let them know that we want to do this. Is that correct?
Essentially, yes. Yeah. Permits will be, the phase that I mentioned, ADPs, where 90% of the plans are completed. That's when we start going for permits. There's other permits that are involved, DEC, obviously, because of the stream.
Who knows what the state's gonna be doing on 82? That road is disgusting. They gotta
Yeah.
do something about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that was terrible. Yeah.
Doug, you could check with, down at the farm to see how much of an impact that's going to be.
Yep.
That'd be great.
I'll talk to Tyler.
Yeah.
His grandson's the one building their house.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen them drive those tractors way up.
Well, Tim told me that he wouldn't be impacted personally because he's another road back.
I was gonna say, I think his farm driveway goes,
Yeah,
he could go right around it.
I was just concerned about the milk truck.
I'll make sure.
Okay, thank you.
I guess the one thing, mentor of mine kind of said is, there's pain in construction. You got to close a road, right? But the end goal is we are making a much better situation and something that will be around for at least 75 years, 100 years if I'm
Right.
good at what we're designing, right? So it's going to be around for a while. So it's a little bit of pain to get it built, but as a community, everybody pitching in and just dealing with it for that one construction season and we're good to go.
And we spoke earlier, like it's not a precedent to shut down because they're doing that right now. Sound
There's other
and
ones, right.
Burbank Road is
Yep.
presently closing down.
Yeah.
Burbank Road altogether.
Right.
So this person has to travel miles to get back to the 80.
Right. And again, this is very normal. This is usually what we do everywhere. You just happen to have the ability where something could be done. We sometimes work in areas where nothing can be done except for right inside these lines. So this option is there if you want to consider it. I should also mention too, this option is a little bit more. You're building more road.
Sure.
That option is less asphalt, less road. So there's a little bit more construction cost to this. Construction costs are always rising, so
Yeah.
things to think about.
I think I might have asked that the last time, but you don't have a plus or minus as to how much more it would be, but you would be able to tell us.
We do have those. They have contingency in them. They're not the end number. We are required at this point to put contingency that might not be there. We have to put a 15% contingency. Right now, the price tag for this one is 1.3 million. Price tag here is 1.4 million. those numbers will come down when we remove the contingency and we actually get to construction. But we always have to keep a contingency because some of these projects, they don't happen for 4 years. So,
1.3 million versus 1.4 million?
Yeah, there's
Only a difference of
$100,000.
$100,000.
it's 150
Are you
roughly.
Sure,
Yes,
Yeah.
The blacktop
For
is the
real?
biggest expense.
yes, that's it.
that's it?
That's it.
Wow, I would have thought, wow.
Those,
Because your bridge is the same.
Yeah, the bridge is the same, right? So you're always gonna be doing this
The
demo
removal
work.
of that, the demolition where you don't have that, demolition, replanting of the soil, more asphalt, this and that. That's
Yeah,
it.
no, it's,
those numbers that Dan threw out, I would also caveat them. We have gotten fresh bids on other jobs that I would like to compare those against as well.
yeah, we have 6 or 7 fresh bids from Dutchess County that we can look at. Prices weren't bad, especially with some of the contractors in the area. They have sources of materials that are local, so there's less driving. You know, it might be different if somebody had to drive 45 minutes away to get soil, but being 5 minutes away or whatever,
Yeah.
they get good pricing. So,
Mhm,
Interesting.
mhm. Okay,
all right.
great.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
No
Yeah,
problem.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Appreciate you doing that.
Wow.
Yes, there's been some, so, all right.
29 minutes.
Now, you guys wanted the poster boards. Do you want these at all?
Yeah, I'll take a.
Yeah, yep.
I'll just take these.
If you want them,
Yeah,
yeah.